All right, here we go. This is part 3 of the series where I'm kind of trying to show some different information being converted into the correct format that would go into a TAK server. And we'll try and show ATAK this time, but on the front side of this video, I'm going to focus on where things are at with the detecting of drone remote ID, specifically the Bluetooth type. Remote ID I don't know, maybe referred as something else over in Europe or whatever, but it's mandatory in some cases here where I am at. And so the WarDragon, I tried to add a feature that detects that. And it's working pretty well. There's one little thing I need to fix, and I'll explain here in a second as far as just making it a little easier to get up and running. But let me think. So there's a lot to cover, so I'm going to try and take this slow. First things first, the firmware that is out there that most people have in the additional dongle that I added to the WarDragon needs to be updated just to fix a bug or two that was identified when there's multiple remote ID signals. And I'm going to put a link in the description that'll get you a just a Python GUI I threw together and another compiled firmware, Sniffle firmware. I'll put that in the description. This computer that I'm recording on is, in all honesty, it is not it's literally set up exactly like a WarDragon, but I've sold so many that I'm down to, just the ones that I got to get out to the customers. So, well, short of one that I have remote, and I'll tie that in towards the later part of the video. It's the one that has the ADSB and stuff running. So for just all intents and purposes, just consider this as close as possible to the WarDragon kit that everyone else has. If you want to do this to a normal Dragon OS install, obviously you can. You just need to kind of piece together a few things, and the directions may be a little different than what I'm showing here. But in the WarDragon, in the home directory, so it normally is like home, the username and WarDragon, there's a folder where I have some additional stuff there. I downloaded this tool that I'm talking about prior to this video, and there's actually more in the directory than what I'm showing right now, but I just focusing on what we're talking about right now. So let's see. First thing, if you haven't already, let's get that dongle updated. And again, this is just at the time of the video. Anything else that I've made right around the time of this video, I've already updated. And as other improvements will come out, I will mention that so that people can update. But this Python tool is under the assumption that you are using it on a WarDragon. The directories are hard coded and stuff. So if you need to do something different, just consider that. And all this is doing is just making it a little easier to flash the firmware. You can do a command line. I've shown that in previous videos, and you don't even have to use this tool. But the dongle is plugged in. This is hard coded to the specific serial port or whatever that would be in use on the WarDragon. So just consider that. I'm going to flash the firmware. Just does a quick flash here. Things are done, flashing successful. We're good to go. That's really the only change you need to make. The other change you can do, so in the Sniffle drone directory, you can always do a git pull. That's another thing I'll point out. So right now I'm on a cellular connection. I have this system on a cellular connection, and I have a tablet on a cellular connection. And they are both configured with a VPN, specifically a WireGuard VPN, which I talked about in the previous videos. There is a WireGuard server that I have back elsewhere that obviously has an internet connection. Also connected to that VPN is the TAK server and the other remote WarDragon. Okay, so what is that? That's like four things or so for different certificates I had to make. You can obviously use zero tier or whatever you're most comfortable with to pull this off if you wanted to set up multiple sensors and have information coming back over an internet connection. Okay, so we've got the latest Sniffle drone. You see I just do a git pull. And when you do that git pull, you'll notice you may receive some updates. Typically what I'm putting in the WarDragon, you really won't have to do a git pull. We will do that git pull in another directory I'll show here in a second. But right now, if you want to get this up and running, we're in the WarDragon Sniffle _drone Python CLI. and we'll just do a Python. And oh, I guess I should point that out. If you previously had a WarDragon and you haven't reflashed it yet, you may not have that directory. So just get a hold of me, and that's not an issue. So if we do a dot forward slash, in this case we do sniff receiver, we're going to do we can do a -H. I'll just show. I'm going to add a -A for passive scanning. Only I'm doing this when I'm doing the drone ID, but I want passive scanning, long range, and extended. We'll do a -Z because we want to add ZMQ output capability. We'll do ZMQ port. I'll just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll do --ZMQ host, and we'll just do it right on this system. This now is using the dongle here, the Dragon Tooth dongle as I call it, to look for and detect drone remote ID. And I have a drone here that I will step aside and turn on and fly it out here, hopefully not crash it, and we should be able to detect it. Another window, I'm going to go into WarDragon SniffleToTak, which is what I've been working on, and this you'll want to do a git pull to get the latest. And in the latest, you'll know there's a config.ini. The problem is I've made some mistake here. I'll get it corrected. But the goal would be you could put your settings in here and then start it up with a config file, as opposed to what I'm about to do, which we'll do Python 3 SniffleToTak. We'll do a -H. Like I've talked about before, and we'll see we need to put quite a bit, and I probably need to change the format here to match the other tool, because I'm noticing there's kind of a difference here. I've got a dash in there instead of just all one word. But ZMQ host, we want to connect to 0000, and we want to do ZMQ port 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We also want to specify TAK host, which is going to be 10.0.0.3, because again I'm reaching out to the IP address of the TAK server on the VPN. We'll do -TAK let me think, port, let's see, 8089, and then we want to do --TAK TLS-P12. That was in our home Dragon. Let me think, downloads admin.p12. Now you ideally want to make certificates for every client. I'm just kind of in a little bit of a rush, didn't make as many certificates as I needed. This shouldn't cause too big of a problem. TLS P12 pass, and that is ATAK by default, unless you had changed it or did something else. --TAK TLS skip verify. Let's see, the rate limit and the max drones. The rate limit was just something I tried to put in there to limit the amount of messages blasting out to the TAK server. And the max drones I had thought of, okay, so we got to get kind of a queue, how many drones we want to track at once. The older drone starts to fall off, and so on and so forth. That's another thing I'm looking at, is some drone ID, remote ID transmitters kind of bounce back and forth between a different one. Yeah, almost like one thing is different. It'll show like a kind of a unique identifier, almost looks like a MAC address, or the FAA registered ID, and it bounces back and forth. I have one like that. So a little bit of a flaw in my logic when I'm detecting, where it will basically detect both transmissions, and so it'll kind of appear as two drones, obviously in the exact same spot. It'll just bounce back and forth, so I'll take care of that. But let me think. I think we're good here. We could do a -D for debug to kind of watch what's going on here. You can see that we connected to the ZMQ server, okay? And you know what? I'll just go ahead. I am going to pull up the administrative portion of the remote TAK server. oh no, wait a minute, 8443. And don't forget, you do have to have the cert added in order to be able to access this page. And we'll get in here and we'll look at our situational awareness WebTAK. And something that we should notice is that I've got the aircraft information from the other WarDragon feeding in, okay? And now what we want to do is, let's see, and we can even pull up the, let's see, I'll pull up the tablet here. Got my hands full now. CPY, let's see, always allow. So I'll pull up the tablet here, maybe. Let me try that again. Pull up the tablet and we can see that we're into ATAK here. And something I wanted to cover but I didn't really, I'll try and show it here. If you go under settings, network preferences, TAK server, this is where you can add a TAK server. And what you want to do is put the IP address of the TAK server. You can most of the time pull in like a package that you can open and basically import that'll set everything up for you. For some reason that didn't quite work right for me, so I just went advanced options, the import trustor and import client certificate. I actually pulled those certificates in manually and then applied the ATAK password there. I wish I could show a little bit more of that. That shouldn't be too complicated to set up. That's a fairly common thing to set up with ATAK. Although I don't want to make any assumptions here. Let's see. So now we've got ATAK pulled up, okay? And let's see. We can minimize WebTAK. We'll just focus on. Let's see. We'll focus on the ATAK and SniffleToTak. Let me pull these windows open because you'll kind of see what's going to start going on here. And then I'll pull the TAK window back over. Now this is where it's going to get tricky because I got to get a drone set up here. Okay, so I'm going to try and keep everything active here. And after this, bear with me, we'll come back and touch on a few things with the ADSB cot from the previous video. So the moment we start transmitting here, and what I'm going to do is I'll turn one on and then we'll get to two, although the other one I don't have two drones flying around. We can still detect them. You're going to start seeing activity over in these windows. That's the drone ID being detected in real time, and it is being sent or will be sent to the TAK server. But if I zoomed out, it's probably over here in the middle of nowhere. You can see the little image down there because it's got no GPS yet. And we'll just see that we can track this in real time along with our other aircraft that are feeding in from the other remote WarDragon sensor. So let's see. I got to keep the tablet alive. Sleep. Okay, and once it gets a GPS location, it'll start. It should come up over here. Let's see. Oop! Don't want to bust the drone right away. Let's see. Okay, let's try again. Okay, here we go. So this could end badly, considering it's over water. But let's see. Let's see what we get here. I'm waiting for a GPS location. I can see I'm looking at the conversion here to TAK. I don't see the GPS in there yet. This particular remote ID transmitter, for some reason, takes a little while longer. Let's see, did I see the... We'll give it a little bit here. Okay, let's see. We get a GPS. Yeah, this is the first time I've turned it on in this area. I'm just waiting. Speed. Oop. Let's see. Open back up the tablet. Sorry about that. And okay, here we go. So let's zoom in. Oop. Where are we at here? It's hard to see the... Okay, so I'm zoomed in. It's over water. We're back. And so let's just track this thing as it moves around. We can see that our dongle our WarDragon is detecting that. Let's see. And there we go. So we're detecting. I've actually been out almost a kilometer away and have managed to have no issues, and obviously I'm keeping legally line of sight of this thing. So we're tracking it now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on another remote ID transmitter. Okay, that obviously is not going to be mobile, but just so we can get... turn this tablet back on. I should have turned the... should have turned the timeout off. So we'll get another remote ID transmitter going here, and of course it's got to get GPS. And we're bringing the drone back over this way, just to show. And I'm just waiting for the other GPS to update. Meanwhile, I'm flying this around. And there we go. So now we have the other remote ID being detected, a slightly different version. And you can see what I was talking about, how it's bouncing back and forth between the two identifiers. So, it could be kind of confusing there. Might think that there's two drones. I mean, although they're the same. So, okay. All right. So that shows, I feel like we stepped through, and that shows how to get up and running with the drone remote ID detection with the WarDragon remotely, sending it even into, in this case, the TAK server. And let me get this back over here. And yeah, so pretty stable. Obviously, you could script or create a service, which is probably what I'm going to get to, where that remote ID service could be started up, maybe even the TAK service, or maybe, who knows. I'll probably try and refine that a little bit more, make it as easy as possible, maybe even have it start by default. But know that dongle, that Sniffle dongle, dragon tooth dongle, that can actually be used to decode all sorts of Bluetooth type stuff. I am specifically using the Sniffle drone directory to kind of focus on drone stuff, but there is the standard Sniffle. Okay, I think we get the idea here. We can pull back up the TAK, and while I get this drone over here, but you can use the standard Sniffle to decode other types of Bluetooth, which is very interesting too. Let's see. So get this over here. Let's see.
Landing.
Okay, so we'll get this taken care of. Hopefully, it lands without crashing. Ooh, okay, there we go. And now what we'll do is we'll kind of address a couple additional things here for those that are interested in the ADSB COT that I showed how to get up and running with the WarDragon. And we're going to SSH in. I added the OpenSSH package and service to the remote WarDragon. And let me think. We're going to go into 10.0.0.4, I believe it is. And I'll look at the Docker PS. You'll see that ADS or AirSpy ADSB and Docker 1090 is running. And you'll remember where we was doing the ADSB. Remember this ADSB COT? We were doing it from the command line. Well, let's see, I'll cat it out. But in Etsy, part of the package install, default ADSB COT, there is a configuration file that is sitting there, and I just went through, put in the COT URL, which is the TAK server 10.0.0.3 8089. Gave it the feed URL, which is the local host, because this system is the one that's also running TAR1090. I gave it that. Let me think, what else? I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. Feed URL. The TLS client cert, I used the PEM, the .pem in this case, and the .key cert combo there. Password, ATAK, don't verify TLS, yep. Don't check host name. I saved that. Now, you'll notice where those certificates are at. That's the other thing. When you run this ADSB COT as a service, it's using the ADSB COT user, which the developer himself pointed out to me. I was kind of overlooking that. And so with that in mind, if you don't have the certs owned by the right user, basically it was kind of messing up. So what I did, and you don't have to do, you could put the cert somewhere else, but I think the important thing is to make sure that the ADSB COT user has ownership of that. I just, to keep my mind straight, I did a sudo make directory Etsy ADSB COT. Okay, I did that, and I put the certs in that directory, and then I just did a sudo chown what dash R, I think it was, ADSB COT, ADSB, wait a minute, ADSB COT, Etsy ADSB COT. And so that directory will then be owned by ADSB COT. So if you wanted to start, so you do a sudo systemcl. This is not started by default on WarDragon, but if you wanted to have this service running, just maybe because you just always want to monitor ADSB with a WarDragon, which you could not use the GUI per se, the FlightView GUI. You could just go. I think it's worth it to show that. You could go into user source FlightView GUI, and you could do a Docker compose -f Docker AirSpy. What is it? I'm not on the. Sorry, I'm not on the. You could do user source FlightView GUI, and you could do a Docker compose -f Docker AirSpy up, and if you do a -d, that will bring that Docker up and detach it and have it running in the background. Just keep in mind that the way I have the Dockers configured are, they restart unless stopped. So you would need to bring that Docker down so that it doesn't always, come up on boot up and always run and always take over your AirSpy. You won't be able to use it for anything else. You would do the same thing for the TAR1090 Docker, and that would have it come up every time. And then you could do a sudo systemctl. You could do an enable, and it's already enabled, but you could for the purposes of this video, I already have it enabled. You could enable the ADSB COT service, and then you could sudo systemctl start the ADSB COT service, which it already is, and that will use that configuration file instead of having to type all that stuff out by hand, which is pretty much what I want to do to the remote ID stuff. So I know that was a lot. I wanted to just highlight again kind of where things are at. I think it's really moving along and is working. I'm pretty happy with the detection of the remote ID, and that was basically accomplished by just bringing quite a few people together. And that's the beauty of like open source, sharing an idea with the Sniffle developer, just spending hours and days and however much time I spent to debug things, give feedback, see hey, here's this other thing, could you pull this in? And then next thing you know, there's long range extended for the drone purposes is working. And then another individual that has done so much work out there for GNU radio converting things and stuff, and then him being able to provide a what am I looking for, open drone ID, essentially entire library of decoding, and then me fiddling around with this SniffleToTak, trying to spend some time there, and then just pulling it all together and create a semi usable solution here. I mean, it'll get easier, but if I've missed anything, let me know. Ask in the the chat there, down below. And what else? Yeah, and just have a great day. Enjoy. For those that do have the WarDragon, let me know. Get that up and running. You should be good. Just update the firmware like I showed, and be trying to detect Bluetooth type, and you should have the same result. All right, watch the previous videos too to set up the TAK server if you got any questions there and about ADSB COT. I think you should be good.